Hey there, super friends. It's Joey with Last Point Gaming. Today is Monday, January 7th, 2019. So, this one is probably going to be closer to how long they used to be. Because here in central Pennsylvania, it is farm show season. Which is... it's a big, exciting event for a lot of people. I don't really get into it, but unfortunately causes a ton of traffic between me and home. So it's going to be a bit of a long one. All right, so this week my plans, which sometimes things go according to plan. Oh, before I go on that tangent, I did check the audio from Friday's episode, and audio seemed much better than it had been on Thursday. So I think it is part moving the mic and part when I'm on the highway, I have to make sure my window is up completely. So anyway, my plans for this week. Today, talking about Ravnica Allegiance, that's what it is, the new set coming out, and important dates for that in Arena. And there was a bit of news that I do feel the need to kind of talk about, but there's not really a whole lot to say. And then throughout this week, I'm going to try to focus on Ravnica Allegiance cards that I'm excited about. Like tomorrow, I hope to have my list of these are cards I'm thinking about seeing if I can work into the humans deck. So far, there's two I can think of right off the top of my head that I want to check out for that possibility. And then towards the end of the week, we may drift into more topics on Modern. Like, everybody's back to KCI needs a ban. So, we'll explore that a little bit. But, so, first thing, we'll talk about it real quick, because, again, there's not a whole lot of information out. Alex Bertoncini, the, generally regarded as the poster player for cheating in Magic the Gathering, has finally got himself a lifetime ban. Now, there's a lot of rumors floating around as far as what caused this. He was at an event this weekend and things happened. I kind of feel like it has to be something prior to that. It could really go either way. Usually, before a suspension or ban, I think this is setting a precedent. I think this may be the first lifetime ban associated with cheating. But usually before an action like that is taken, there is an investigation to determine basically the best course of action. It's like if you screw up a play at competitive REL, you don't necessarily get disqualified right away. You're generally looking at getting disqualified if you blatantly cheat. Like, I don't know, say you realize that you tapped the wrong mana for a spell after it's already been cast, and when you think your opponent's not looking, you try changing what lands are tapped. Oh, there's a story behind that, but it's not really mine to tell, so. Or something along those lines that, you blatantly took an action that is not legal within the rules of the game. In most circumstances, if it's something that could be a misplay, there will be some discussion and some effort spent figuring out whether you just messed up or you legitimately, you knew better and tried to float it past your opponent in hopes that they didn't know better. And a prime example of that is at that modern Pro Tour, what was that, last year sometime, there was the player who got disqualified because his opponent vialed in a meddling mage, and he tried to respond to to meddling mage naming Path to Exile by playing Path to Exile. And in some way or another, it was determined that this player knew that that is not how that works, and was kind of hoping his opponent didn't. If you're curious, meddling mage is not an his text is not an enter the battlefield trigger. I'm of course referring to him as him because there is the one printing that the artwork is in the likeness of Chris Pikula. I think I could be way off on that name. Anyway, he's a male player. The other printing of meddling mage is somewhat androgynous, or it might actually be a woman. Like, I'm trying to visualize the artwork, and it's pretty vague, like what I can visualize. In any case, the meddling mage naming of a card is in as it enters the battlefield, as opposed to when it enters the battlefield. And this may seem like a very small difference in text, and it is a very small difference in text, but it makes a very big difference in the gameplay. Same with Phantasmal Image. You can respond to the cast of Phantasmal Image. You cannot respond to well, I guess you'd have to target when you cast, but if I vial in a Phantasmal Image, you can't ask what I'm copying and then kill it in response. You would have had to responded to the activation of the Aether Vial. And again, it's a big difference between as this enters the battlefield and like Thalia's Lieutenant that says when it enters the battlefield. So, you know, they do small, like, discussion amongst the judges to figure out in an immediate, like, do we disqualify? Do we, you know, give a lesser penalty? What do we do here? But when it comes to an actual suspension, usually there is months of investigation that leads up to that. Now, again, this process could have been shortcutted in Bertoncini's case just because of his history. That it's like, oh, you got caught doing something? Screw it, we're done here. Like, you're done. But I kind of feel like even given his history, there had to be an investigation involved. There has been a lot of pressure from the community to ban him, though. And as we saw with the whole Sprinkle Jeremy situation, the community's voice is heard by WotC and the DCI, which technically are two separate entities. You know, there was a lot of community outrage over Sprinkle announcing she was leaving the community because of, you know, her interactions with Jeremy and everything, and his followers. And it was that outrage that led to there being the decision that an action had to be taken in general, let alone it being the lifetime ban. So because the community has been so adamant lately, because it seems to be like a huge topic lately, and it might be because, well, I guess Bertoncini was off suspension for like a year. I think he came back at the end of like 2017, sometime that fall. So ever since he's been back in, it's been a real hot button topic. So I mean, it really could be just at this, you know, smaller event, he did something, it got caught, it got, you know, recorded in his permanent record or whatever, and the DCI decided that, you know what, that's just kind of the final, like, we don't need to really look into it because you have a history. I don't know. Again, There does not seem to be like a write-up on what happened. It's just he's been added to the ban list. I'm not even sure how that came to be like public knowledge. I saw a lot of people posting on Twitter about it. There are a lot of people very happy with it. And I have to say that being that a precedent was set with Jeremy's ban to issue a lifetime ban to somebody because they were an asshole on the internet, but to give 6 months suspension, 1 year suspension, 18 months suspension to people who are caught blatantly cheating, especially on camera. Like, that's pretty ballsy. Because even if it's not caught at the time, which most of the time it's not, they're gonna ask at Comic-Con. Like, you can generally bet. I should really be paying attention because I have to turn off to this road at some point. That somebody watching the coverage, either as it streams or watching coverage archives, is going to come across it and is going to call it out. So, I really should have my map up for this. I like watching the little thingies move. Alright, let me pull up my map, just so I don't get lost. Catch up. My location. Really shouldn't be doing this while driving. I should have thought of this ahead of time. Alright, here we go. Oh, cool. I didn't miss where I'm supposed to get on. Okay. So, I can't say that I'm, heartbroken for the guy. They did just invite him to a judge conference to give a seminar on how to catch cheating. If you're going to give a seminar to hens on how to avoid foxes, best person to give the seminar is a fox, I suppose. But whatever, there it is. That's the news. He's gotten a lifetime suspension from the DCI, can never play sanctioned Magic again under that name. So, there it is. Like I said, there's not a whole lot to say on it, even though I've spent a lot of time talking about it. Just, there's not a lot of information on what actually happened. And I doubt there will be, honestly. Because there's not much good that can be gained from it. I have to say, because I was, of course, listening to Brad Nelson's stream today, because he happened to be streaming this afternoon, and, I was at work, and I listened to a lot of streamers and YouTubers while I'm at work. And somebody asked in his chat about how he felt about, the whole thing, and, what happened and this and that. And, Brad's like, look, I don't know anything about it. Until I do know something about it, I don't want to talk about it. I got to respect that. Because like I said, we got all these rumors flying around of, this is what happened and this is what happened, and they're just that. They're rumors. But anyway, moving right along. So, January 18th is the pre-release weekend for Ravnica Allegiance. I keep wanting to call it Ravnica Alliances, and I'm kind of glad that that's not the name, because then I would have it, I would feel the want to shorten it to just calling it Alliances, and then I would feel the need to explain every time that I'm talking about Ravnica Alliances, even though, I was trying to shortcut it, and yeah. Anyway, so Allegiance, pre-release is January 18th, which I'm really excited about. Boo and I are probably going to go rock some Two-Headed Giant, at least one event where we Two-Headed Giant together, and then maybe the Sunday event. where I see if Rockstar wants to partner up with her, and I'll try to catch a random partner at the shop. I like her partnering with Rockstar. The guy, like, professionally teaches music. He seems to specialize in drums. So he's really good working with kids, and I think she gets more of an opportunity to make decisions and everything, because I think I unintentionally kind of take over when we're partnered. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we're going to do this turn, play that card, and, do this. And so I like her getting the experience of getting to partner with Rockstar. It's not just like, if I partner with my kid, I lose a lot, and I just don't want to lose a lot. Because honestly, with the exception of the time I partnered with... Who did I partner with? I partnered with somebody, like, really good. Oh! I don't know if I have a name for him. We're just call him Vape. Yes, he quit smoking and went to vaping, and is one of those, if you ask him about it, he will tell you all about the benefits to vaping over smoking for a long time. Nice guy, though. I adore him. We don't see him so much anymore, which makes me sad, but I partnered with him, and yeah, we 3-0'd, which was awesome, but it's not, I don't want to partner with my kid because then we lose, because I really don't care. It's, Two-Headed Giant pre-release. It's not the Pro Tour. We're fine. But I think she gets a better experience and gets to learn more about the decision-making processes in the game by partnering with somebody who is more adept at leading and teaching rather than doing for you. So, I'm excited about that. Seems like on the 17th, the Sealed Guilds of Ravnica, the Sealed Allegiance event starts on Arena. And then, looks like as of the 18th, it goes like full legal in Arena. So, there's kind of a sealed pre-release on Arena. And then, it's either the 16th or the 17th. They've invited a bunch of streamers to partake in an event. Now, I don't know if they just get access to the sealed early, or if they get like fully loaded, accounts that have all the cards. I'm not 100% sure what's going on there, because I haven't seen like a lot of firm information, but they've invited a bunch of streamers to get to play with the cards early. Taryn from MTGO Traders is one of the streamers that's been invited, which I'm personally super stoked about. And if it comes to... Really? You want me to do that? If it comes to like, oh man, all these streamers that I really like are streaming this event and they're all doing it like at the same time, who do I watch? Because like I actually do feel some pressure there, just because in the world of internet entertainment, views are kind of everything. Oh, you want me? Nope, we're not doing that, Google. I don't want to die today. They've been doing a lot of like rerouting around the highways here in central Pennsylvania, and like there are a couple death ramps they have created in this process that hopefully will be fixed by the time it's all said and done, but right now they're fucking death ramps. So yeah, we're not doing that. Anyway, Taryn kind of trumps my loyalty to just about any other streamer, just because like since I started doing my podcast is like right around the time he started streaming and doing videos for MTGO Traders, and like he was one of my first followers, and apparently I was one of the early followers of MTGO Traders, and like we're kind of internet friends. Like he unfollowed me on Twitter because he had friended me on Facebook, and if you're friends with me on Facebook, you get a lot more of my personal stuff. Like, I use my kids' actual names. So, I don't know. Like, he had said at one point that, because he was like, oh, I unfollowed a bunch of people and I noticed he unfollowed me. And I was like, oh. Or no, he said he's going to start using the block and mute options much more liberally, which I think is a good thing. Like, there are accounts I have muted just because no good comes from me interacting with them. If you've been around for a while, you can probably guess that Daniel Fournier is on that list. I don't wish ill upon the guy or anything else. It's just he is very aggressive in his rhetoric, and I tend to have a problem with how aggressive he is in his rhetoric. But unfortunately, like, just there's no positive discussion that can be had about it, you know? And it generally degrades into senseless screaming, and it's just not worth either of our time. So I keep him muted, and on rare occasion, if I see somebody's replied to him, because I can still see threads, I'll unmute him to see what the discussion's about. I have a lot of difficulty with the way he represents himself on especially Twitter. But in any case, so, you know, he had mentioned blocking and muting, and I replied, I was like, just so you know, if you block me, I'll, like, legit cry and everything. He replied, was like, I'm pretty sure if, you know, it weren't for the geographic distance, we'd hang out. And yeah, I definitely feel that way about Taryn. Like, he's definitely my internet friend. I think I had almost convinced him to invite me to his wedding. But unfortunately, his wedding was right around the time I was due with Girly McBabyface, and I was like, yeah, no, I don't think I can make the trip out to where you are. So, yeah, he kind of trumps everybody else as far as who I will give my one view to. But, no, it's exciting. I'm pretty sure I saw Tannen Grace post that he's been invited to participate in this. Brad Nelson, of course, being that he's part of the MPL. I'm sure all the MPL players were invited to partake in this. I want to say maybe Todd Anderson too, but I'm not 100% sure there, because streaming is a relatively new thing for Todd. As far as I know, put it that way. Like, I'm subbed to his channel on YouTube, and he was doing this, like, really neat series that he did, like, 3 or 4 videos on, where he went back over archived coverage, like the Star City Games coverage, and did his own commentary over on, like, why this was done and this and that. And I really thought it was great, and it was, like, really insightful. But he only did a few episodes, and then, like, it stopped. So I'm not sure what happened there. And he did last year at some point, he was streaming, because I watched him stream a few times, and then, like, out of nowhere he just kind of stopped. And then he was streaming PUBG for a while, which, yeah, that's cool and all. Like, if you're into PUBG, he does that from time to time. But okay, I can ditch my map now. If you're into PUBG, you should, follow him on Twitch, because he does stream that from time to time, but I'm not terribly into watching people play PUBG. Like, I don't play first-person shooters, ever. That may have even been a third-person shooter. In any case, it's just not the kind of games I play. I'm one of those female video game players that it's pretty much just RPGs for me. Like, I love the Elder Scrolls series. I did love the Fable series, and then Fable 3 happened. And I hear there's going to be a Fable 4, and I'm not holding my breath for it to not suck, because Fable 3 happened. And Fable 3 just pissed me off on multiple fronts. So in Fable 2, there was a zone called Wraithmarsh that I couldn't play at night, because it was like this creepy zone and everything. So then when I go to bed, I'd have nightmares, because I have really big difficulties with, like, visual imprint. Like, I watched the Black Mirror movie, Bandersnatch, and there is one scene that, like, imagery got burned into my brain, and then I was afraid of my basement for the rest of the day. I'm not quite right. And that's just kind of how it is. So I hated playing that zone. And Balverines. I hated goddamn Balverines because like, one of their attacks is they jump up and disappear for a period of time. They, like, jump up off the screen and then, like, reappear, I don't know, 30 seconds later behind you and start kicking your ass. I hate Balverines. So what did they do in Fable 3? 1, made a zone, like, 10 times creepier than Wraith Marsh, where you're, like, in the dark all the time and there's constant whispering of the children are hungry and Balverines all over the goddamn place. Not to mention they changed the combat in the game, they changed how magic worked in the game, and, like, they just changed so much shit, and it sucked. Sorry, I'm really passionate about this one. I was really annoyed. I did play it through, I did beat it, of course I did it, but I was angry about it the whole time. The Witcher series, I never got to play the first one because it's PC only, and I do not have a PC capable of such things, but Assassin of Kings was really good. I haven't finished Wild Hunt, and I really should, especially because I've bought it twice now, because we had an Xbox One that, like, we bought the year they released. Never, ever do that. Always wait for the second wave, because the first wave, you're paying to be a very expensive beta tester. There's always issues with their first wave. Ours is that it, like, randomly doesn't read discs. So after trying to fight with it to get it to read the disc for so long, I finally gave up and just bought it as a digital download copy. So I bought that game twice and haven't gotten very far. So I really need to get back to playing that one. The book series is actually pretty good too. The only difficulty with the book series is it was originally written in Polish, which usually isn't a problem, but the translation seems to be particularly sketchy. Like, there's a lot of grammatical inconsistencies and everything that, like, when you first start reading it's kind of like brain frying until you get used to it. But aside from that, really good storyline and everything. In any case, what the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah, streaming. So, yeah, there's a special streamer event. I'm going to look up the actual date, and I'll give that to y'all tomorrow. I think it's the 16th, because I think it's the day before everybody else has access to it. But I thought nobody else got access to alliances until the 18th. But when I went to check the event calendar today, because I was really, really hoping there would be alliances draft, and there's not. It's just sealed. That starts on the 18th. So... or that starts on the 17th. And I thought that's when this event was, but it might be the 16th. So I'm going to look that up, and I will give y'all as much information as I can find about that when I look it up tomorrow. Plus, try to talk about some of the cards I'm excited about from alliances for the human standpoint. And then I got to figure out a standard deck, because I'm our standard seat for SCG Baltimore. And I did apologize to Vance on Twitter today, because after they spoiled the Kaya's Wrath card, Kaya's something or other, that's a 4-mana Wrath, and it's half Fumigate, where you gain life equal to the number of creatures you control that died to the Wrath, I think. Pretty sure that's what it is. And of course it's black-white. And I really want to build like a black-white Afterlife Aristocrats kind of deck. I don't think it's going to be good. But, one, I want a reason to play Seraph of the Scales. I want to play that card so bad. And man, if they put her on a playmat, I'm totally buying it. Despite the fact that we already have a billion playmats and like more playmats than we can use. And I'm going to be getting a playmat at SCG Baltimore because they still give you playmats at SCG events. But that art for Seraph of the Scales is just amazingly beautiful. I really love it. But I really enjoy tribal decks and like white weenie style decks. But probably what like my kind of dark guilty pleasure, I guess, is decks that punish my opponents for killing my shit. Like, that is where it's at. Unfortunately, just so little of the time is it viable. Like, we had green-black aristocrats back in Shadows over Innistrad. And you better believe I did play that. Unfortunately, I only played it for a hot minute because it's really a combo deck, and my deck was always like, wow, Elvish Visionary. And I'm like, okay, well, I at least get to, draw another card, right? And they're like, brah, Catacomb Sifter. And I'm like, these aren't helpful deck. I need my sack outlet. Like, I need my Nantuko Husks and my Zolaport Cutthroats. Where are they? Deck's like, I don't know. Did you put them in here? Are you sure you put them in here? Because I'm pretty sure you didn't. But yeah, punishing opponents for killing my stuff, that was one of my favorite aspects of the Orzhov Warriors list back in Theros Indicons, is Athreos, god of the underworld or whatever. When a creature you controlled died, your opponent could either pay, I think it was like 2 or 3 life to keep it in the graveyard, or it went back to your hand. So it was this tiny little like weenie tribal deck that board wipes were kind of useless against because you just bought yourself a turn. The best was when somebody stole, I think it was my Chief of the Edge with Ashiok, and then they swung in with it and I blocked it. I think it was a Blood-Soaked Champion, in fact. It might not have been, though. It was something big enough to kill it, so they both die. And I'm like, so are you paying to put either of them in the graveyard, or they go to my hand? And he's like, well, no, you don't control the Chief of the Edge, so that goes to the graveyard. And I was like, you should read Athreos again. Double Stranger! Wow, it's really cold outside. Why are you outside, Double Stranger? So, yeah, I do. I love punishing people for killing my creatures. And rewarding myself for my creatures dying. Because I love creature-based decks. And it's always just so disheartening when you work to build up this great board state and they're like, Blind Terminus off the top. Yay! I hate your face. I worked so hard. I raised these little humans up from babies. And you just washed them all away. So I'm really excited about the possibilities there. But yeah, that's where we're at. So hopefully as the week goes on, we'll be talking more and more about Standard, because I got to figure out what I'm doing. In fact, hey, if you have any deck list suggestions, please send them to me. Please. I need help. I hope to do reasonably well for my team. But all that being said, I am home now. So as always, if you made it this far with me, thank you very much for listening. And hopefully I'll talk to y'all tomorrow.